Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Tonight we head to the Monterey Peninsula and the Dry Lagoon, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Although just repaved in real life for the first time in over 15 years, this 66-year-old circuit has been known for years for its low-grip, sand-covered surface that's the same as it ever was as far as iRacing is concerned. And then there's the 180 feet of elevation change with the always daunting corkscrew, a prime contributor of driver consternation with a twist, a turn, and a 5.5-story drop that will no doubt catch out many of our racers tonight. It's season number 10 of the Esports Racing League presented by Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, Common Gear, and Paddock Motorsports. And I'm Greg Ginsberg. We've got Morgan Burkhardt joining me in the announce booth tonight and possibly for the rest of the season, along with Josh Wilkie in the virtual production trailer, bringing you all the great views of tonight's action. And for those of you joining us for the first time, we've got 4 classes in the Esports Racing League. We've got Spec Racer Ford, who you see out on track right now, Spec Miata, as well as 2 touring classes featuring both the Jetta TDI Cup cars as well as the Toyota GR86 Cup cars. And each class races 6 times over the course of our 9-week season. And so tonight it's week number 4, and we've got 2 20-minute sprint races on tap for you. First up is going to be those Spec Racers, followed by Spec Miata, each competing in their 3rd race of this young season. And if you're looking for some touring car action, make sure to join us next week at Circuit of the Americas, where the VWs and the Toyotas return to action. And so good evening, Morgan, and welcome back to the commentary booth.
I'm really happy to be back here. I really quite enjoyed doing the behind the scenes kind of stuff.
That's right. So Morgan's had a couple big weeks. I think we talked about some of it last week, but he just came off of a well, you know, we had our virtual laps at Summit Point Raceway last Tuesday night, and Morgan, you had quite the experience in the real race cars at Summit Point Raceway this past weekend.
That is a bit of an understatement. Yeah. I'm gonna attest getting the track record at Summit Point to doing all the practice in the virtual world here at the Esports Racing League last week. But yeah, big weekend for sure. Double dipped in SSM, which was a regional Miata class, and Spec Racer Ford, and was able to reset the track record.
In Spec Racer Ford, absolutely. All right, so Morgan, real quick, we've got about a little bit less than 2 minutes remaining in our qualifying session here for the Spec Racer Fords, and we're looking right now at both Megan Overstreet and Miles Crabb. They are currently running 1-2 here in qualifying. Let's do this as they're getting ready to complete their 9th flying lap here in qualifying. They've got one more lap to go. Well, it looks like Overstreet's going to call off that last lap. Let's follow Miles Crab around, and maybe you can give us a little bit of a track guide here tonight of WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
For sure, it's very important to get a good run out of that final corner, because as you can see right now, it's all uphill until you get to turn 1. Down the hill, there's a little piece of pavement on that right that you can use going into the Andretti hairpin. This is a really downhill braking zone. It's very difficult to get right. Nice double apex there by Miles, using all the track on the exit, going back to the left for these 2 double right-hand corners. They're very flat, so the track does not really work for you. We're just going to try and balance the car through using all of those entrance, apex, and exit curbs, opening up the corners as much as you can. Like I said, they're flat. They don't help you. You just got to roll speed through the corners and then into this uphill, a little bit crossed up for Miles there, but
very crossed up.
I almost saved it too.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to end Miles' 9th lap there.
I would say that's the commentator's curse.
Yes. All right, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we pick up Beans Forster, because he's right where Miles Crab left off, coming out of turn 6 onto the Ray Hall straight, heading up towards that corkscrew, Morgan.
And this is one of the most, you can't name a more iconic corner in motorsports. Falling down the hill, just going to use those grass over the 2 apex curbings, just rolling the car through, and then actually I just blanked on what that corner is called, but it's another flat.
The rainy curves.
The rainy curves, there you go. And then that's the corner we just went through. You have to early apex that a bit because the track kind of falls away on the exit and then into the final corner. Very hard to get right. It's a bit of a wonky entry, and you can use a lot more of the outside track than you think you can, because there's a bunch of AstroTurf there, and I think about a couple seasons ago they stopped giving you an incident point for going over the curbs there, so you can track extend quite a lot more now.
All right, so as we watch Beans Forster, he was 3rd fastest in qualifying. On his final flying lap, he does not improve, does not beat Miles Crab or Megan Overstreet, and so the best he can do is start 3rd. We just had Charles Vaccaro move up to 5th position. We're on board right now with Josh Justice as he works his last flying lap. Josh, a Spec Racer 4 driver out of Texas, trying to improve upon 9th position in that blue number 99 machine. As he comes up to the finish line, does he improve? No, he does not, and about 2/10 off of his previous fast time, and now Josh is going to go for the ride here. So Morgan, real quick, as our drivers are finishing up their qualifying sessions here, and with the last laps coming in, and we'll run down the starting order in just a moment, want to run down the results from our race last week at Summit Point. As we mentioned, Morgan Burkhardt was our winner, with Caleb Patry finishing 2nd, Megan Overstreet finishing 3rd, with Caleb Pocock and Justin Huffman rounding out the top 5, and the championship standings currently in Spec Racer Ford after 2 races now. Well, Morgan, likely you're gonna not be the points leader after tonight, since you're gonna be spending the race up here in the booth with me. Morgan's got 46 points. Miles Crab, who we saw there in the 131 machine, he's gonna be starting on the outside of row number 1. He's got 39, currently 7 points back from Burkhardt. And then Megan Overstreet, our pole sitter, is only 5 points back from there than Justin Huffman and Josh Justice. And again, that is after 2 races. Tonight is race number 3, as we've got our field starting to grid up. Morgan, if you don't mind, I'll take the rundown here of the starting order.
Go for it.
All right, so starting on pole tonight is going to be Megan Overstreet with a qualifying time of 1:34.169, if my glasses are showing correctly. There we go. Miles Crab, 0.12 of a second off of Overstreet's times, starting on the outside of row number 1. Then we've got Beans Forster in the number 231 machine. He will start third with Jim Brewster. Great run for Jim, who's been running in the Weekend Warrior, Spec Racer Ford League, Formula F League, Formula V League, you name it. He's been running at Jim Brewster. He's going to start fourth. Charles Vaccaro will start fifth, and right next to him will be Andrew Wozencroft starting sixth in the number 80 machine. Then Josh Justice and Andrew Love, Corey Heffron, and Travis Trussell. Great to see Travis out here, photographer from our neck of the woods, Morgan. He's going to be starting 10th. Usually we see Travis start at the tail end of the field to see if he can get hard charger awards. Mark Sherman is going to be starting 11th, with Wayne Buttermore starting 12th, and Joaquin Effinger in the number 700 machine. He's going to be rounding out our 13 car field.
Now, Greg, this track is what I like to call a perseverance track. It's known for its heavy attrition rates, so you have to be very precise because it's a lot of dirt out here. If you miss your corner by a little bit, you suddenly find yourself sucked off the road and nowhere. So you really have to be careful. Exactly. The dirt never stops, and then usually when it does stop, there's a big bitey barrier.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've never, of course, driven Laguna Seca in real life, but the one thing I always find interesting about many of the corners here as we watch the pace car with a real quick pace here coming through turn 5 are those big sausage curbs at the apex of each corner, and a lot of times I see more often than not where drivers just target fixate on those sausage curbs, and it should be make it easier for you to turn in and maybe plot your exit from a corner, but in many cases it ends up shooting people right off the track because they end up just barreling right into the things.
Yeah, no, it's the curbs are so tall. Like the little blue and white rumble strips that you see there are flat, but these big red lumps and turtle curbs in the middle of the corners will take your car and turn it into a SpaceX mission. Yes. So you end up either bicycling or going all four wheels off the ground. And if you have not four wheels on the ground, you don't have grip. So
you come back to that really, really sandy, horribly not grippy track. All right, so pace car here, Morgan, is on the pit lane. That turns things over to Megan Overstreet. And did Megan take the outside lane? I'm trying to. No, she does have the inside. She's just pushing Crab as far out to the outside as she can. Green flag is in the air, and Megan getting a little bit of a push there from Beans Forster. Jim Brewster maybe half a car length back from Crab as they come down the hill into the Andretti hairpin for the very first time, and a great entry there from Overstreet.
Exactly. She got a really nice push from Beans going down the front straight as they're all trying to go single file, a little bit of double file towards the back of this pack, but our leaders have really strung out into a single file line. They're going to try and break away. A little bit of contact there back in the middle of the pack. Wozencroft running around the outside, having no inclination to be any part of that.
No, definitely not, as we saw Andrew Love take a little bit of a move there, and both Love and Justice moving ahead of Wozencroft. Corey Heffron in the number 52 machine, now getting ahead of the white number 80 as well, as our drivers coming out of turn 6, that very difficult corner. You turn in a little early there, and same deal, you hit dirt, you slide into walls, and that keep you from going over the cliff, which I guess is a good thing. But brings you all the way up to the corkscrew. You turn in a little late there, and for the moment, Overstreet coming through the rainy curve. Nice run through there as Forster opens that corner up just a little bit to try and carry speed here down through turn 10. And already we're starting to see, back from fourth back, Morgan, where the drivers are, they're starting to fall off the pace of our top 3.
Yeah, it looks like we've definitely got a solidified 3-car breakaway with Overstreet at the helm. But it'll be interesting to see if Miles is going to sit back behind Beans or if he's going to try and make a stab at it and go for the lead here. But knowing Beans, talking to him quite a lot, I think he'll be very content to sit behind Megan and see if they can break away from Miles.
Yeah, make it a 2-horse race rather than a 3. And we'll see here is a little bit further back. We've had a few more changes. We talked about Justice and Andrew Love, but here's and we talked about Wozencroft's problems on the first lap, but Jim Brewster in the orange 933 machine, there he is just ahead of Wozencroft. Again, he started on row number 2. He now finds himself back in 7th position, so he got himself shuffled back. I think he had some issues over coming out of the corkscrew on lap 1. We'll see if he improves a little bit here on lap number 2. All right, let's take a look. I think Josh has got what happened to Jim queued up here, Morgan. We'll see exactly what happened, and I guess I was right here. As they're coming up the hill, Brewster goes to cover against Vaccaro, and then under braking into the corkscrew. Oh, and he just got into the apex curbing, and the car just shot to the right on him.
Yeah, it looked like he went to turn in, realized that it might have been a little bit too early, turned back out, maybe had a little bit of a correction in the middle of the corner. But either way, he's been relegated back to 7th. And this track, like I alluded to a little bit earlier, it's a very hard track to pass at. With the draft that these cars have, the car going around in the background, I believe that was Travis Trussell out of the final corner.
Mm-hmm.
But how these cars, they draft really well, but it's still very hard to make a maneuver stick because of the way that these corners are shaped.
Now tell me this: when you're setting up a car for Laguna Seca, knowing how little grip there typically is, and when you have a rear-engine car like the Spec Racer Ford, in order to maybe mitigate some of that lift-off oversteer that you might have here, which it probably rears its ugly head more so than a grippy track, what kind of changes would you make to the setup of the car?
In this car specifically, I tend to try and set it up to drive a bit more like a front-wheel drive car, where you really have to drive it with the throttle. And my setups tend to be a little bit more on the edgy side, so try and make it push a little bit more so that you can drive it a little bit more conservatively, and if you do end up making an error, it doesn't try and bite you immediately, as it looks like Beans Forrester has gotten around Megan, and Megan is not gone anywhere.
All right, so let's take a look here, and I think Josh has got queued up. We'll take a look at the pass there for the lead here with a little bit less than a quarter of the way through this first 20-minute race as they're coming into the corkscrew, and you just see that little moment, Morgan, where Megan gets loose coming down after the first apex of the corkscrew, and Forster takes advantage.
Yeah, that corner is so hard once you fall down. I think you said it was 5 stories there.
Yeah.
You fall down, the car compresses at the bottom, and all of a sudden there's no suspension travel, and you better hope you've pointed the car in the right direction because it's going to go straight.
And for her, unfortunately, the rear end was not pointing. It wasn't pointing straight, and Forster was able to power out of that and down the rainy curve as she was still trying to get the car under control. As we just saw Forster run a little wide going through 3, Overstreet a little wide coming through 4. Now they're side by side going into turn 5 and heading up the hill. And I always find this, and truthfully, Morgan, turn 5 is probably the most difficult corner for me here at this track, because it just seems to tighten up, and I never ever seem to turn in late enough that I always run out of track and end up fighting the sand there to get back up as you're heading up a hill towards turn 6.
That is part of the beauty of this track. Jim Brewster making a little peek on Charles Vaccaro into the corkscrew. Oh, Vaccaro got a little loose on the apex. They're both going to cut the corner. That'll be both slowdowns for them, but it looks like Vaccaro got a little bit loose towards the apex of that the entrance to the corkscrew, but they all end up okay. But like I was saying, that's the beauty of this track. You have to be so perfect, and you have to end up doing a ton of laps to figure out what works and what doesn't, because for turn 6, I believe, and the second to last corner, I've actually found that turning in really early and getting down to the rumble strip, it'll hook the car around and actually make you a little bit faster. So it's a lot of trial and error, a lot of R&D to figure out what actually works here.
And so you can see here that Overstreet did get back around Forster when they did go side by side through turn 6, and so working the last lap now, coming to the scene of the crime. We'll see if Forster decides to try and return the favor, but as we were talking earlier, Morgan, where perhaps Beans' strategy was to work with Megan, try to eliminate Miles Crabbe from the equation. That certainly is not the case, as he's still right there.
Yeah, that strategy has kind of gone out the window, and it seems like all of these Beans goes off, I think, the second time in a row out of the exit of the kink. These cars do not seem like they are real cooperative, especially for Beans Forrester. So we'll see if there's to run off tires. We'll see how the tire wear is towards the end of the race, but this will be an interesting chess game to watch.
All right, as we watch them now as they come down, getting ready to complete lap number 5, and only 8 minutes into this 20-lap race. Remember, stick with us. We've got one more race tonight. It's going to be Spec Miata. You definitely don't want to miss that as we shuffle a little bit further back into the field here, and going back to a battle that started at the start of this race on lap number 1, Corey Heffron and Andrew Wozencroft, and we can see where Vaccaro Brewster are trying to recover now. Sitting right back behind. Let's take a look at Heffron here, and well, we had it looks like we had both drivers go off at the corkscrew, and certainly Wozencroft with a slowdown there.
Yeah, I think Corey Heffron was right on the limit of what is okay and not okay as deemed by the iRacing stewarding system, but that was about as close as I've seen that you can get away with. So you'd have to be careful for the rest of this race. And it really does look like a lot of these drivers are struggling with off-corner push. The car's understeering past the apex of the corner once they're getting on the throttle. So this track seems to be really hot and not giving a whole lot of grip. And like I said earlier, these corners are not shaped very friendly. So
no,
if you miss the apex a little bit, get on throttle a little too early, it's gonna bite you.
Yeah, I was going to say the one that you actually get a good feeling from is right there where we just saw Wozencroft come through turn 6 and onto the Rahal straight, where you've got that little dip right at the apex. You kind of know when you've hit that corner right, and you certainly know when you got it wrong, because you're usually just fighting to keep the car on track, as we see Heffron running wide through the rainy curve. Yeah, and this is one of those tracks where it's got great flow if you get it right. It is absolutely a miserable beast if you get it wrong, because you're always trying to basically catch up from the very last corner, and then the next corner comes up on you, and you're still fighting the car from the last one.
Exactly. All of these corners are connected, so if you miss the first one by a little bit, you're going to be behind for the rest of them. And if you want to make them all, you got to slow down to walking pace to get back online. So
yes,
we're coming back to this lead pack with Megan Overstreet, Beans Forrester, and Miles Crabbe. Hasn't really changed much in the last couple of laps. It looks like they're all pushing pretty hard. Beans has been track extending a lot coming out of turn 4 there, but the way that corner is with the incident points, you can put 2 wheels over the curb, you can put half a car over the curb, and it doesn't seem to give you an X. And again, Beans dropping 2 tires on the exit of the corner. But with this new grass model that we've got in iRacing, before you could do that, and it would actually grip up a little bit. It wouldn't really slow you down. Ooh, that might be a slowdown for Beans. I think he got away with that one. That was lucky.
I think he may have just gotten away with it and just kept the wheels maybe just on the very edge of the curbing over there, on the inside edge of the curbing. And I was going to say, Morgan, that our timing and scoring system that we use here at Apex, it will show us what it believes to be off track counts, but it's not always 100% accurate. I'm showing Beans as having 8 off tracks at the moment. And I think the limit, if I remember correctly, is 12 before you get a drive-through penalty.
He's 17 now.
Oh, is it so? Oh, well, you would know
17.
better than me. I'll take the 17. All right, so he's halfway there, and when we're just about halfway through the race, so we'll see. We'll see.
Burning him at an acceptable rate.
Here you go, and neat little fight going on right now. Mark Sherman and Joaquin Effinger. Effinger in the orange number 700. Mark Sherman directly behind. In that white and aqua number 18 machine. That is the battle for 11th right now. And a little bit further back from there is Travis Trussell, who had that early spin out of turn 11, and he gets it right this time, and he's trying to work his way back up into this fight for 11th.
Yeah, this is I feel like every single week we've got Wayne Buttermore and Joaquin Effinger fighting each other, and that is just really cool to see. And part of the testament to why Ray Esports is such a cool league is that no matter where you are on the track, you're gonna have somebody to fight with.
Exactly, and and it's interesting that you say that, Morgan, because I guess this is season number 10, and both Joaquin and Wayne have been racing with us since the very first season, and it is not it would be a travesty, I'd say, if Joaquin and Wayne were not separated by at least one, if they were separated by maybe more than one position on the grid, and it's been that way now for 10 seasons. If one were here and the other wasn't, I don't know if we could actually have a race.
Yeah, and it's very cool to see that. But jumping back to this lead pack, we're missing a car now.
Yes, we are.
Meg-
Yeah, let's take a look here. Is Beans Forster now? We're showing him at the tail end of the field as Megan Overstreet now has a pretty nice sized gap over Miles Crabb. Let's take a look as they come up the hill out of turn 5 over towards turn 6. We talked about wanting to hit that little divot, and if you get it wrong, what happens? And we just saw where Beans Forster lost a lot of ground coming out of 6, and here he comes coming up to well, let's take a look as he now is coming down through the rainy curve. Oh, yeah, and
just called it quits, I guess.
Yeah,
Interesting.
No,
It's an interesting one for sure. Sorry to see Beans go, but Miles Crabb is still in the draft of Megan Overstreet, just on the fringes. So we'll see if he can put the hammer down in the last 6 minutes of this race and try and use the slipstream to run back up on her.
All right, right now the gap is just about 1 second, and we have just a touch over 5 minutes remaining. So still a lot of time here, as these laps are about a minute and a half a piece. So what, probably around 3-4 laps remaining?
I would say so, yeah. So Miles, he's got to start catching her about 2 to 3 tenths a lap, which I think is very doable at this range. The draft will be worth about 3 tenths on a lap. You'll gain a lot in a straight line. But Josh Justice has inherited the podium spot, as we're I think he just had a pass for 11th place. Joaquin Effinger on Travis Trussell. They seem to be having a real good battle. If we can go and take a look at that.
Yeah, so and here we go, coming down the hill, as it's Buttermore, or pardon me, Trussell and Sherman and Effinger, with Buttermore a little bit further ahead, and Trussell, who the last time we looked in just a lap ago was almost 30 car lengths back from these guys. Let's take a look and see what happened.
Got the start of the battle between Mark Sherman and Joaquin Effinger going into turn number 5. You see Travis Trussell kind of just lurking in the background. Joaquin Effinger far to the inside. They're gonna make it 3 wide around here. He's gonna try it. He thought about it. He thought about it, but decided better of it. And Joaquin Effinger going up the inside of the kink on Mark Sherman. Really respectful racing here. They're giving each other a ton of room. No contact. No worries here. So. He's thought about splitting the middle there, threading the needle.
That's the second time. He just sees the C's part, and it's like, should I go? Should I go? Should I wait? Should I go?
Joaquin Effinger far down to the inside there a little bit. Got crossed up there and ended up cutting the corner a little bit. Travis Trussell goes through on Mark Sherman. So a nice little scrap there between those 3.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's jump back here, and well, there you go. As Miles Crabb has gotten right up to the gearbox of Megan Overstreet's 044 machine here, as we're working lap number 11. We've got about 3.5 minutes remaining. And and I was going to say, Morgan, I didn't think that the draft, given all the rather short straights here, I didn't think the draft would play that much of an effect. Certainly going up the hill towards the corkscrew and maybe that run, and then perhaps on the front straight. But just all of these, it just seems like it will be very difficult to lock in behind a car here.
It is pretty difficult, but like you said, all of these major long straights are all uphill, so the draft gets multiplied a bit because the leading car it's going uphill, so it's not going to accelerate as fast.
Right.
And the car behind, he's got the tow, he's got the benefit of that, and he can just roll right up onto the car in front of him. So it's very helpful, but also not helpful, because once you get really close, you get into a sort of bubble and you can't really do much with it.
Yeah,
So it's really easy to run people down. Yeah. It looks like we will have 2 more laps to go after this one. Miles Crab is kind of just sitting back there. Megan seems to have a little bit of a pace advantage as we jump back to this battle for 4th place with Corey Heffron, Wozencroft, and Andrew Love. A very, very tight battle with Jim Brewster kind of hanging in the background. A little wide from Wozencroft out of the final corner. Gonna wonder if Andrew Love is going to be able to have a run on him into turn 1. Going to use that draft and see if he can poke a nose down the inside, maybe down the outside. But nevertheless, a very tight battle here all over the place, as we got, looks like Charles Vaccaro is now out of this race.
Yeah, the 221 machine that had such a great start, and he now is out. I'll tell you, watching this trio here, Love certainly a little bit later on the brakes going into Andretti than the other 2 drivers. We'll see if he's able to use that to his advantage. I mean, obviously the issue that we saw is, although he was a little bit later and a little bit deeper, he was not able to carry nearly as much speed out of that critical corner. Maybe lost a couple of car lengths there as they start to make their way up the hill.
And that's the big thing into turn 1. Since it's downhill, braking deep is incredibly difficult to do. But at this point in the race, I would say that if you can brake deep and you can make that move, you're going to be okay. Because that's making the move is the most important part at this track. It's very close to another slowdown there. So they're starting to push the limits and push the envelope on what's legal and what's not.
All right, so our leaders now just about to cross the start-finish line and start their last lap. There you go. Barney's got the white flag in the air. Here from Laguna Seca, Megan Overstreet, she is your leader. Miles Crab running in 2nd. And then Josh Justice, fairly good distance back from there. I think somewhere close to 12, 13 seconds back. So let's watch this battle. Let's see if Miles Crab has anything for our leader and our pole sitter tonight, Megan Overstreet.
Now this will be a very difficult move for Miles to pull off unless Megan slips up a little bit. He's gonna have to get a little bit unorthodox with this one. It's gonna probably have to happen into the corkscrew, which is always a bit of a gut check to make, but he's really close. He's gotten a very good run out of turn number 5. He's gonna look for it into the kink. Megan's gonna give him space.
And a lot of hesitation there from Overstreet. She got on the brakes real heavy. I think she thought he was going to come underneath and didn't, and maybe she didn't get a great run out, but neither did Crab for that matter.
Yeah, it looked like Miles lifted a little bit at the end of the straight. Megan positioned her car very well to not really give Miles the inside or the outside. So we're going to see Megan has a good run through the rainy curve into the penultimate corner. Miles is very close, but I don't know. He's going to have a look into the final corner, send it deep. Decides better of it, tries to get an exit out of the corner. Megan Overstreet leading Miles Crab to the line, and I don't think Miles is going to be close enough to get it. Megan Overstreet's going to cross over the stripe to win race 1 over a very close Miles Crab. As we're seeing the battle for 4th. Now Wozencroft going defensive into the final corner over Corey Heffron. Andrew Love waiting in the background to see. Oh, and Love goes around
into the wall. So now it is a 2-car battle for 4th as Josh Justice finishes in 3rd, and Andrew Wozencroft's going to beat out Corey Heffron to the line. Wozencroft will finish in 4th. Heffron 5th. Jim Brewster will round out your top 5, and there's Love. He's able to get that car back underway, albeit with some damage. He's going to finish in 7th. Travis Trussell working his way down through the corkscrew on his last lap as he works his way back up to 8th position after having been at the tail end of the field. And watching this neat little battle here, Mark Sherman and Joaquin Effinger. And this is the battle for 10th.
Joaquin is actually, he's going to take a look into the penultimate corner on Mark Sherman. They both give each other space. Joaquin goes through. Is Mark going to have an answer to that going up to the stripe on this final lap?
Oh, he was thinking about it.
he had a look, but he decided better of it. Joaquin gets the better run coming out of that corner, and he will round out our top 10 in this first race tonight.
All right, there you go. As Trussell and Buttermore cross the line just ahead of Joaquin Effinger. Effinger finishing in 10th. Mark Sherman, your last car running at the end, and he finishes in 11th. All right, so what we got here, I see our second place finisher and our winner sitting in the green room. Let's bring in Morgan Miles Crabb, our second place finisher tonight. And you feel up to interviewing some podium finishers, or would you like me to take it?
I'll take the first one here, Greg.
Alrighty. There you go, Miles Crabb finishing second tonight in Spec Racer Ford.
Hello, Miles. So you started off on, I believe you started off on the front row here, but walk me through your game plan here. What was your plan to, when Beans went off and you were kind of just sitting in third, what was your plan throughout this race?
Yeah, I mean, plan number one was get a good start and then try and just hang with the front. Unfortunately, you weren't in the race, so that means that nobody's going to drive away. We had a little bit of a more pack race, just 3 guys up front. Primary thing at Laguna Seca is don't spin and don't drive it off. Unfortunately, I was kind of keeping a mental count of how many times the Beans went off, and I was going, yeah, this is getting kind of high, and then you got to drive through. So yeah, at Laguna Seca, it's don't drive it off, don't make any mistakes, and on the last lap, make a go for it. And Megan's car, when it got hot, the track temp went up like 10 degrees during the race. She got loose and I got tight, and I just couldn't work with tight off, especially in turn 5. Every time I'd power up, I'd have to pedal it to not drive it off the edge of the road. But she did a great job. I set her up on the last corner for her to run deep, and she nailed the braking point, and I couldn't do anything with it. So good win to her.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like you guys had a really nice scrap going towards the end of that race. So you kind of try and look into the kink, but decided better of it. And now that we hear that you were having some off-corner understeer struggles, that makes complete sense. But nevertheless, congratulations on your second place finish. Is there anybody you'd like to say thank you to?
Yeah, I mean, hi Mom, hi Dad, they're watching. And yeah, you're right. That look into the kink was never land. Like, that was never going to work. I just stuck my nose there. It's like, is she going to run deep? Nope. Okay. Well, we'll figure it out on the other side. But yeah, thanks to Stevie and everybody for putting this on, and thank y'all for broadcasting it. And see y'all in the MX-5s, I guess.
Well, we'll see you in just about 25 minutes, hopefully.
All right, there you go, everybody. Miles Crabb, thanks so much for joining us. Miles, let's move over now to, as I play around with Discord, let's move over to Megan Overstreet, your pole sitter and your winner tonight in Spec Racer Ford.
Hey there.
Hey there, Megan. Oh, go ahead, Morgan. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So you started on the pole, and you pretty much led this race flag to flag, minus Beans getting around you just for a lap or two, I believe. So you seem to have a pace advantage over everybody else. Were you just going to try and manage the gaps and just kind of lead this race from the get-go, or did that just kind of fall into your lap?
I was trying to pull away and failed miserably at it. Like, when it got cloudy, my car got so much better. Don't know why, it just did. The track cooled down a little bit. I was able to gap like a 1.4 second lead over Beans, and I think he had a drive-through penalty for cutting the chicane in the corkscrew. And once the sun came back out, my car just lost so much of its pace and started sliding around way too much. So that allowed Miles to catch back up, which kind of ruined my plan of driving away from the field.
Yeah, we saw that, and Miles had mentioned in the previous interview how his car got tight and your car got loose. So a difference in setup there between you two, but nevertheless, you held on that final lap. You positioned the car very well going into the corkscrew, and you didn't really crack under the pressure that Miles put on you. So a very big congratulations. And anybody you'd like to say hello or thank you to?
I'd like to thank y'all for doing the broadcast. Y'all do a fantastic job. The Stevie Ray for putting the series on. Hopefully we can get a sponsor for the Spec Racer Ford soon. And my family for watching these races, and everybody that also watches it. Appreciate it a lot.
Well, thank you, Megan, for joining us, and we hope to see you in the next race in just a few minutes.
Yep. Have a good one.
All right, everybody, there you go. Megan Overstreet, your winner tonight in Spec Racer Ford, and I believe that will likely either put her up into the championship lead or within a point or so of Miles Crab. And yeah, it was very interesting how Morgan, she talked about how the car came to her when the temperatures dropped, and then, you know, just like Miles noticed when the temps went up, she started having a pretty loose beast.
Yeah, and that's I mean, again, the beauty of Laguna Seca. It is very cloud dependent, it is very setup dependent, and it's very driver dependent. I would say that this is one of the most difficult drivers tracks that in North America. You have to nail it, you have to be perfect to win, and Megan was as close as you can be to perfect tonight.
Very cool. All right, so Morgan, let's take a quick little break. You're going to give Josh a little opportunity to play some spots, play some ads for Apex Racing TV, and we'll be back here from Laguna Seca in just a few moments for race number 2. It's going to be Spec Miata on the Ray Esports Racing League. We'll be right back.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
and welcome back to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for week number 4, season number 10 of the Ray Esports Racing League. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Morgan Burkhardt, and we've got Josh Wilkie working in the production trailer, pushing all the buttons for us tonight. And so we're now just about 8 minutes, a little bit more than halfway through our Spec Miata qualifying session. And just quickly here, we'll let you know Murphy Nichols is your provisional pole sitter with a qualifying time of 1:37.21, about half a second up on Miles Crabb, who we talked about just a few moments ago. Andrew Wozencroft currently third in qualifying with Trenton Kramer and Lewis Lockshine, your top 5 for the moment. Let's do this though, Morgan. Let's take a look at the standings for the 2 classes that are not racing tonight. We'll start off with Touring 3, which are for our GR86 Cup cars, where last week at Summit Point Raceway, Caleb Patry took the win with Beans Forster and Kyle Robertson rounding out the top 3. And you see it right there. We've got a tie after 2 rounds here in the championship. Caleb Patry and Beans Forster currently your championship leaders, with Kyle Robertson 10 points back in 3rd, and then Josh Justice and Michael Snow tied right now for 5th. So great couple of fights going on right now here in GR86 Cup, and we're going to see them once again next week when we head to a virtual circuit of the Americas. If we take a look at Touring 4, which are our Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup cars, and the class that you, Morgan, for a number of seasons really specialized in. Trenton Kramer, who just came away with a real good run at the SCCA's National Championship runoffs in his Mini Cooper, a front-wheel drive car, not much unlike this Jetta. He currently is your points leader after taking the win last week at Summit Point. He leads Seth Spolman by a single point. Seth finished 2nd last week, with Miles Crabb finishing in 3rd. And then we had Megan Overstreet finishing 4th. And you can see the point standings actually end up working out just almost the way they finished up in the race last week, with Crabb sitting 3rd in the championship, 3 points out from Kramer. Then Overstreet another 9 points back from there, and she is currently tied with Jacob Schilling for 5th, with Gary Winters a number of points, well, not that many, only 2 points back from the duo, currently in 5th. And so now that we've taken care of classes that aren't here and aren't racing, let's look at Spec Miata here, Morgan, as we've got a little bit less than 5 minutes remaining. And for the 2nd race in a row, Morgan Burkhardt is not going to be able to try to repeat as race winner, as Morgan took the win at Summit Point last week, with Wanchi Lin, who's spreading dirt in the chat here. Is Wanchi, is he actually behind the wheel of a car for this race? Doesn't look like he is, but he's been talking smack in the YouTube chat here tonight. He finished 2nd, 17 hundredths of a second behind Morgan Burkhardt. Beans Forster finished 3rd, then Trevor Roy and John Carlos Schooler, your top 5, with Skip Rock Jr. finishing in 6th. And if we take a look at the championship points, there you go, Morgan Burkhardt with 2 wins in 2 races, with an 18-point advantage over Lewis Lockshine, and then another 4 points back to Forster. Megan Overstreet tied once again for 4th, this time with Josh Justice and then Trevor Roy. So looks like, Morgan, you come up here in the commentary booth just to give these guys a chance. Is that what the play is?
Well, I would love to say that, but I physically can't. I do actually really enjoy commentating, and it's nice to see this side of things more than the driving, as much as I love it.
All right, well, there you go. And somebody who probably doesn't love it right now, Miles Crabb loses the back end of the car coming into the Andretti hairpin, and he's going to probably go and reset, or at least get the car back underneath him before he starts his 9th flying lap, as we're on board right now with Murphy Nichols. And again, Nichols currently your provisional pole sitter here with a little bit over 3.5 minutes remaining. He's
on the pole by about 0.4 of a second over a very tight everybody between second and seventh is between half a second, and he's got 4/10 on the field. So that's a big accomplishment for Murphy after coming off another weekend in the Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series here in our neck of the woods here, Greg. But
that's right.
Murphy's putting on a good
His
show for us.
monumentous race in his Nissan here this past week. Yeah, absolutely. Murphy's starting to get his legs underneath him here in the Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series. His first year racing in a real life race car. Good to see him do that, and hopefully we'll see consistent Murphy tonight, and as opposed to inconsistent Murphy. But you said it here, at least here in qualifying, he's got a stranglehold on the rest of the field as Megan Overstreet just turns her fastest lap of the qualifying session, a 137.74, just about 14 hundredths of a second off of Miles Crabb's times, and she's looking to move up to the front row for the second race in a row. And Megan, I think, we've seen here Morgan in the last couple of seasons, where she came in really just as a specialist in spec racer Fords, and she's really started to pick up some of these tin tops as well.
Yeah, she's really branched out into the MX-5s and our touring category as well. So it's good to see that within the Ray Esports Racing League, you have certain car specialists, but whether it's peer pressure or because hey, that's fun, they start to branch out and run a bunch more cars, and then the more the merrier, really. So an interesting thing that I would like to point out here is we've got a missing piece of the puzzle from our race one, and that is Beans Forster. I just got word that he had a brake pedal issue that was causing with Spec Racer Ford has no ABS, so he was locking up all of the time because the brake pedal kind of just felt like it. So I think that could be a contributing factor to why he is not with us for
in the
race
field
2
here in the Spec Miatas.
It's a hardware failure. I know all too much about these hardware failures, but anyways,
I was gonna say there's going to be a frantic phone call to Court Schmidt tonight.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, as we're watching now is Miles Crabb here just as the clock hits 15. And so the checkered flag is now out on the session. This should be Miles Crabb's final flying lap, as he's now looking to make up what, as you said, about 4/10 of a second. See if he can get up to Murphy Nichols. His fastest time to date, a 137.61. He's looking to beat a 137.21.
Of course, all flying laps will count after the checkered flag as long as they cross the stripe before the checker came out. So he's going through the rainy curve, nails the apex there. He's going to track out all the way and then flow the car through the final 2 corners, using all the track, maybe half a tire in the dirt. That was pretty close there, but pretty good
it there.
Miles. And we're going to go through the final corner here. Gets a good run out, a little bit of oversteer, but that is an attribute of this car on cool tires, and is going to cross the line. Does he improve?
And he does. He moves up he takes over the pole, Morgan, with a 137.16 and 163. And so only a couple of thousandths separate he and Murphy Nichols. That will be your front row. Looking to see, I think we've got Megan Overstreet completing a lap right now. We'll see if she improves on her 137.74. She does not improve. She is going to stay third. And look at this, Murphy Nichols comes across the line. He responds to Miles Crabb with a 136.67. And so, Crabb made up 4/10. Murphy Nichols opened up another 4/10 on Miles Crabb on his last lap, putting a stamp on a qualifying session. Trenton Kramer on his final flying lap, and he should be able to put this one in. Let's see what happens here, as he's currently scheduled to start 4th next to Megan Overstreet, and he's going to call the lap off and take the car back to the pits. So that should round up qualifying, Morgan.
Yeah, it's a very impressive lap on. It's a buzzer beater of a time for Murphy Nichols and Miles Crabbe as well. Both improving their laps on their final attempts. But this should be an interesting one here, Greg. I'm not sure if our qualifying times are truly representative of our race pace, because I know in my experience in this league, where you can get a tow in qualifying, and I've been on the pole by 8 or 9 tenths because I nailed a draft lap, and then you can't run away in the race because everybody has the draft. So
Exactly.
we will see, because there's a big gap between our front row and the rest of this field.
All right, well, let's do this, Morgan. Let's run down the starting grid for tonight's race. Starting on the front row tonight is going to be Murphy Nichols with that last lap flyer. Miles Crabbe will start right next to him in the number 131 machine. Then we've got Megan Overstreet and Trenton Kramer making up row number 2 with Andrew Rosencroft and Stephen Blethen. Great to see at least part of the Blethen pair, the two twins here racing with us here tonight. Josh Justice will start 7th with Charles Vaccaro 8th. Then Lewis Lockshine and Corey Heffron will make up row number 5, starting 9th and 10th. Then Mark Sherman will start in 11th with Rich Green to his right. Then we've got, and there you go, Morgan, side by side on row number 7. It's Wayne Buttermore and Joaquin Effinger. And then we've got Travis Trussell and Russ Lundberg, and maybe this guy named Morgan Burkhardt.
Yeah, just some guy who probably disappeared. He's too scared to race tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say either your doppelganger or your mini-me.
There you go.
All right, so there we go. So we should have Russ Lundberg. He'll be starting 16th on the field tonight, not 17th. As we're still waiting for, we're waiting for Morgan Burkhardt. And the safety car, the pace car there is waiting. It should start rolling off momentarily, and I think it should be getting underway as we see the start lights just show up on the screen. Yep, there we go. Pace car is now underway. And so Morgan, with the pace lap starting, let's talk about our sponsor for tonight's second race. It's Grassroots Motorsports Magazine. Built for the true sports car enthusiast, Grassroots Motorsports has one mission, and that's to be your personal guide to the sports car world. Whether it's online at grassrootsmotorsports.com, in print or in person, the racers and builders, the car nerds at Grassroots Motorsports take you behind the scenes and show you how to make your car better. Along the way, they'll give you a taste of everything this hobby has to offer, from 1,000 horsepower track monsters to cool street cars built in driveways. They also maintain a collection of staff-built project cars, because hands-on technical articles, they aren't typed behind a desk, they're scribbled down in the garage. To not only read but become part of the story, head on over to grassrootsmotorsports.com. All right, and as we're making our way down the pace lap here, should also mention quickly, although they're not racing tonight, the Grass Paddock Motorsports Sim to Track initiative, where Grass Paddock will be giving rides in their B-Spec Mini race cars to 2 drivers selected by a special committee here in the Ray Sports Racing League at the end of the calendar year. One ride will go to a driver who currently maintains a valid competition racing license in order to race one of Grass Paddock's B-Spec Minis, and then also another ride will be going to a driver who wishes to obtain their competition license and move from sim to track. As we've got a driver that has just gone off, and I think that's Travis Trussell. I think talking about that sim to track initiative, Morgan, just completely flustered Travis, and he went right into the wall with the corkscrew on the pace lap.
It could be. It's a very teasing initiative there. So you might want to just hop into a Jetta right now and get on that.
That's right, and that's going to be for our drivers that race in the T4 cars, the Jettas here, and we'll talk more about that next week from the Circuit of the Americas. But now in Spec Miata, green flag is in the air, and we've got Murphy Nichols to driver's left, we've got Miles Crabbe to driver's right, and we've got a number of drivers who have just gone off just before they get to the crest of the hill. We'll take a look at that incident in just a moment, but it appears as though I think Vaccaro might have been involved. Wayne Buttermore was involved. Mark Sherman was involved. But we'll get back to that in a few moments here. But Murphy Nichols leads the field underneath the Firestone Bridge into turn number 4. Good move there. Trenton Kramer getting around Andrew Wozencroft. Now Josh Justice taking a look to the inside. And for the second race in a row tonight, Morgan Wozencroft getting shuffled back as Lewis Lockshine comes underneath him going into turn 5. And I think Wozencroft just being overly cautious with those cold tires.
Overly cautious maybe, and you know, a lot of these guys are going to smell blood in the water, and they're just going to pounce on that when somebody is trying to not wad up the car on lap 1 on these cold tires. But Josh Justice had a little bit of a slip up through the kink, dropped all 4 off, and went from P6 down to 10th. But he still in the back of this lead pack here. As Nichols has retained the lead through the first lap with Crab right behind him.
I don't know. Looks like we may have had another. Thought we just had another driver run wide coming out of the rainy curves. I think that was Rich Green. We do have Mark Sherman. He is still in the pit lane here after that lap 1 incident. But great little fight here coming out of the final corner, side by side, door to door. It is Trenton Kramer and Megan Overstreet. As we're going to go back and take a look, I think, and see exactly what happened back on lap number 1 here coming down the front straight. Oh, there's the tail end of it. As we've got Buttermore and who else is involved with that? Actually,
Mark
I guess that was
Sherman
involved. Yeah.
Looks like he's got a dislocated shoulder on the front of that car.
All right, let's take a look at this. This will give us a little bit better view. And that started. Wow, that started very early. So it was Buttermore, and it was Effinger, and it was Sherman. And
Sherman seemed to be the meat in the sandwich there.
Yeah,
and,
there was nowhere for him to go. You saw Buttermore start to, I guess, try to inch away from the wall on driver's left, and moved Sherman right into Joaquin Effinger.
And the other thing with these cars, it could have been a little bit of a getting the side draft sucks the cars together, and could have been a netcode incident there. So unfortunate for sure, but glad it only took out the 3 cars instead of more.
Yeah, and it looks like Sherman is still in the. I think Sherman was getting a tow back to the pits, which is taking the extended period of time, and hopefully he knows he's got one fast repair that he can use. But the slowest tow truck in the West right now, bringing Mark Sherman back to the pit lane. As we're watching this fight again, it's Murphy Nichols and Miles Crabb. Trenton Kramer, who's now dispatched Megan Overstreet, trying to make his way up in the draft. And the longer Nichols and Crabb stay side by side here on the front straight, the better it's going to be for Trenton Kramer.
Yeah, and it looks like Nichols and Crabb had started to break away a little bit, but now that they've gone side by side for that little period of time, Nick thought he was going to come back. He's going to look up the inside into turn number 4. They're going to go side by side through here. They don't hit the sausage curb. All is okay. Nichols retakes the lead. But like I was saying, I thought that Nichols and Crabb were going to try and work away from the rest of this pack. But now that they went side by side for 2 or 3 corners, and Trenton Kramer gained half a second on them. So yeah, it seems that they've got a third dancing partner to deal with, who is also towing along Megan Overstreet, who is towing along Wozencroft, who's towing along Lockshine, etc., etc., etc. So
eventually they're all coming.
Exactly. The more they fight, the bigger this pack is going to get.
And there you go. Is there a good portion of them seem to be separated by maybe 2 car lengths at most. We see Lockshine now closing things up on Andrew Wozencroft as they come out of the corkscrew. And Megan Overstreet, that last time by, she was running about a full second off of Trenton Kramer, who did just set fast lap. So certainly he was definitely the beneficiary of that huge hole in the air that our 2 leaders, Nichols and Crabb, opened up for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of these drivers within a second of one another. We'll see him start to close things down, although it looks like Overstreet may have. She's now sitting about a second and a half back, so might be a little difficult for her to get back up there, unless of course Trent Kramer goes side by side with Miles Crabb.
Miles had a huge moment coming out of turn 1. Just looked like he got a lot of on-throttle oversteer. And you see Trenton Kramer popping over that sausage curb, and all 4 wheels leave the ground. It's gonna hit that one as well. Looks like he's using it for a little bit of rotation here. But that moment from Miles Crab coming out of turn 1 caused Trenton Kramer to check up a little bit, and now Murphy Nichols got to have a 6-7 car length advantage. So we'll see if he can keep this. We'll see if Miles Crab is still in the draft here. But if Murphy Nichols can stay cool, calm, and collected, he might be able to hang on to this. They're just at the point where the draft stops being super powerful. They're going to get it a lot coming up these hills. They'll gain a couple hundredths, few hundredths. But yeah, if Miles has no more corrections on the exits of corners and Trenton's able to get up to his back bumper and maybe push him a little bit, this could start to close back down.
All right, well, so far, we've got Murphy Nichols. He's got a full second on the rest of the field. That fight continuing between Lewis Lockshine and Andrew Wozencroft. And that has allowed Stephen Blethyn and Charles Vaccaro to close things up to the back of the number 80 machine. So now a 4-car fight for 5th position, as we've got a driver that it's just gone around coming out of turn 10, and I believe that is Wayne Buttermore. And Buttermore's his very difficult race continues as the number 73 machine now gets back underway. Or maybe maybe it wasn't Buttermore then.
I think it was Stephen Blethyn went around in the final
yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think that was Stephen Blethyn. Thank you, in the 150 machine, yes.
Yeah, and that's another product of this car track combo. It takes 4 or 5 laps for the rear tires on these Mazda MX-5s, as we're going to take a quick replay onto Blethyn's little spin coming out of his final corner. He's going in. He's got Charles Vaccaro right behind him, Wozencroft right in front. Gets down to the apex real nice, and then as he gets down to the sausage curb, looks like he just got a little too much throttle, a little bit too much turning, and it went right around on him.
Yeah, and luckily did not impact the wall there. Was able to get the car back underway, but yeah, you're right. It looks like he just got onto the throttle a little bit too much, a little bit too soon, and puts the car around. As we jump back now, back towards the front of the pack, Murphy Nichols just resets fast lap, or, well, he did that 3/4 of a lap ago. Big change here, though. Well, not a big change. Megan Overstreet now starting to close things down on Trenton Kramer. That last time by, about a 1/4 of a second faster, was the 044 compared to the 444. And she is definitely starting to tighten things up. Now, if she can get up to Trenton, they should be able to work together and maybe move back to that lead pair, or at least move back up to Crab, who now has re-caught Murphy Nichols.
Yeah, and we will see if when Miles Crab gets to the back of Murphy Nichols, which it looks like he has had a little issue doing, we'll see if he's just going to try and either push and wait until the end, or if he's just going to try and go right around. And then that opens up the door for Trenton and Megan to just come right back into this battle without really having to stretch the tires, without really having to push the car all that hard. And like I was saying earlier, it takes 4 or 5 laps for the rear tires on this Mazda MX-5 Cup car to really get in, really get comfortable. And that's just how the setup is in iRacing. It's how the car, to be set up to be fast, it's got to be really loose to start, and then we'll start to tighten up towards the end of the stint. But you're seeing these drivers kind of holding on through corners. They're dropping tires on the exits. You see Trenton Kramer do it in the background there, coming up the hill out of the kink. But it's a quirk of this track and this car. Not a whole lot of grip, and the Mazda tires, when they're cold, have even less grip. So you end up with a friction circle that I don't think you can have a circle that's negative, but if you could, you would.
It would be like a black hole, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so our leaders started to make their way through some slower traffic. I think that is the Buttermore car. Here as Megan Overstreet looks to come underneath Trenton Kramer into turn 11, into the final corner. She gets the pass made. She'll use Buttermore to pull her down the front straight, and hopefully maybe they can work together to get back up to our leaders. The gap now between Overstreet and Miles Crab, almost 3 full seconds.
Yeah, and it looks like Overstreet got the move done. Very assertive, very well done,
Yeah.
very clean. And Miles looks like he's just going to sit right behind Murphy. So Megan's got about 2.7, almost 3 seconds to catch up to these lead twos. We have just crossed over the halfway point of this race, and Andrew Wozencroft has had an issue. He looks to be into the pit lane here,
and Corey Heffron had pulled into the pits as well, just I guess 2 laps ago, and actually just brought it straight down the pit lane. So maybe he's having some mechanical issues as well here.
I did see him in the YouTube chat earlier saying he and I quote on this one, where is it? I've lost it. I absolutely hate this track. So, you know, that he could have just had enough and called it quits for the night.
He was done.
So that's understandable. This track is very difficult and very unforgiving, and the attrition rate is super high. And as you can see, we're riding on board with Miles Crabbe here, watching these 2 cars go through corners. They never really take a set. They all look pretty antsy, wiggling on exit, and they're moving around through the middle of corners. So
yeah, I was gonna say it looks like they're moving around a lot under braking and a lot of correction being dialed in. That the front end just doesn't seem to bite the way you'd want it to, but I think a lot of that comes down to the track surface now. Is Trenton Kramer trying to make a move around Megan Overstreet around the outside, going into the Andretti hairpin as he tries to come underneath her in the second apex there. Can't get it done. Overstreet covers the move, and we're gonna have to see Trenton Kramer set it up again. And yeah, you saw even right there as Trenton Kramer was trying to get the car rotated into 3. You know, first the nose pushes, then the rear steps out. It's got to be a very, very difficult beast to handle there.
They are. It's a lot of fun, and it takes a lot of time to really dial in the setup on these cars. And I've been fortunate enough that I've had people come to me and ask me to build them setups, and I've spent a ton of time. And it's hard. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but building a setup, it's loose for the first bit, and then it tightens up, and it has a very unique driving style through corners to get it to work properly. It's a car that you kind of have to adapt to drive it, instead of just kind of going out and driving it how you usually drive. But as we saw Trenton Kramer try and go around the outside of Overstreet into turn 1 on that last lap, it's a very difficult move to pull off. And in my experience, you either have to outbrake like 100 feet later than the guy on the inside, or kind of bait them and make them brake super late, and then so go for the over-under.
They go too deep and push wide coming out of the first apex towards the second one. Yeah, I was gonna say, because if you end up on the outer portion there, I mean, one, you've got more sand and more dirt sitting out there, but also the track kind of levels off at the very edge where you can kind of see where, as they come through there, that it does have a slight bit of camber down towards the inside there, but it does definitely flatten out as we go here now. We've got about 6.5 minutes remaining in this 20-minute race, and so far, you know, we saw this in race 1 in the Spec Racer Ford race. Morgan, Miles Crabbe seems awfully content to just sit and wait until the last 2 laps or so, and he seems to do a very good job of judging exactly what the handling characteristics are of the car ahead of him in trying to determine, you know, and waiting to the last minute to devise a game plan.
Yeah, and what I'm noticing here is he's got a lot of patience, and he's got the skill to be able to analyze the car in front of him, where he's faster, where they're faster, what his car's doing, what my car's doing, which is a very important skill to have. And unlike our last race, the clouds haven't really come out here, so the track won't have cooled down. It's going to be heating up this whole time with cars going around it. The entire Murphy has a fairly large off there. He's able to collect it back together and keeps on going. But you can see the track temperature there on the bottom right is 93 degrees, which isn't roasting, but it's not comfortable either. So no. It's going to be interesting. And if you push the tires too hard, they will start to go away, and it won't be fun towards the end. So I think Miles he's just sitting back here. He's going to let Murphy do all the hard work. He's just going to use the draft. He doesn't have to push hard through corners because he can just draft right back up on the next straight.
All right, let's do this. Let's take a look at another little battle that we have going on here, Morgan. And this is, it's Joaquin Effinger and it's Russ Lundberg directly behind, but I think they've got Rich Green just ahead in pretty close proximity as well. Oh, and that's Rich Green's going to get a lot closer to him, I think, as he had some issues coming through the final corner through turn 11. He gathers it back up, but we'll see what kind of pace Effinger and Lundberg can carry.
And it seems that this field has kind of separated out a lot from the first few laps where we saw cars were separated by about half a second, 0.6. But attrition has struck, mistakes have been made, and now there's 2-3 seconds in between each of these cars. So the closest battle on the track right now is actually between Russ Lundberg and Joaquin Effinger for the 10th spot. So let's take a look at this real quick. Joaquin Effinger tangling with a different dance partner than he is usually used to with Wayne Buttermore, but a good battle nonetheless. Just watching them both go through turn number 5, very respectful. They're very smart about when they like to make moves. There's never really any contact, and they can run pretty close together. But you saw there Russ Lundberg just pushing past the apex just a little bit, and you saw how that killed his momentum immediately coming out of the kink.
Yes, he had to try and gather the car back up and keep it from rolling off on the outside of the exit curbing there. And and he lost a ton of momentum. And so now you see as he came into the corkscrew, was almost 4 car lengths back. And it's not something that he's able to make up as the car pushes wide through rainy curve.
Exactly. And coming into the kink, you come over the crest of the hill and you have to turn in before you can actually see where the apex is. So it's a very blind corner, and it's the fastest corner on the track, which is a great combination when you're talking about corners. But it's, especially in this car, since you're sitting so low, you really have to trust and know where the track is going to be, and then just trust that it's not going to get up and walk away.
And you saw there as we jump back to this battle for the lead, Lundberg has at least compared to Effinger, he's got that final corner nailed. That he made up almost all the 4 car lengths that he had lost earlier in the lap, just coming out of the final corner onto the front straight. But here, let's take a look now as Miles Crabb starting to ratchet things up on Murphy Nichols. Oh, and Murphy Nichols loses the back end of the car coming out of the final corner, and Crabb didn't really have anywhere to go there. He got into the back of Murphy Nichols. Nichols then spins all the way around. That is going to allow I think Megan Overstreet to get into the lead, with Trenton Kramer moving up to second. Miles Crabb slots back into third with what should be just one more lap to go after this one.
And we're going to check a replay of Murphy Nichols into the final corner. They're coming out of the penultimate corner, using up this entry curbing, going to get on the brakes. And I think it's going to be a carbon copy of what we saw earlier, just getting on the throttle a little too hard. Miles didn't really have anywhere to go. Unfortunate accident for sure, but those hot tires, the hot track coming into play a little bit. A little jumpy on the throttle, and right her back around, and we're going to watch this pass with Megan Overstreet and Trenton Kramer and see how close did they come to getting collected here. Miles had all of his momentum gone coming out of this final corner, and Megan's going to draft right up to the back of him and go for the move down the inside into turn 1 to reclaim the lead.
All right, so let's go back to live action here, Morgan, as our racers, our leaders, starting to make their way down through the rainy curve, and it is Overstreet and Trenton Kramer who had a bit of his own moment there a few corners ago here on lap number 12. He dials it back up, but Megan Overstreet, and I'm not breaking out the announcer's curse. I'm not going to take responsibility for this, but as she comes across the line, she will start the final lap number 13 as your leader. And with Trenton Kramer second and Miles Crabb third, and then Lewis Lockshine a very distant fourth. So it is going to remain a 3-car fight as Murphy Nichols just gets around Lockshine, and they're battling it out right now for fourth position. Kind of unfortunate there for Murphy Nichols.
It is very unfortunate, but Miles Crabbe is he's sitting back here. He's had the pace from the beginning of this race. We'll see if he has any damage from the incident with Murphy Nichols in the final corner, but Megan Overstreet's really in the driver's seat here. She's got a pretty large advantage over Trenton Kramer, and if Miles goes for the move on Trenton, Megan's just going to check out and be gone. So they've really got to be smart about how they do this, how little time they lose. If Megan makes a mistake, they're still in the range, but we'll watch Miles Crabbe here. He's got a run on the back of Trenton Kramer. He's going to look to the outside going into the corkscrew. Is he going to try? Ooh, Trenton comes across there.
Right across his nose.
Blocks him off. That was well done. It was close, but it was well done. Miles gets a run out of the corkscrew. See if he can make anything happen into the rainy curves. Thinks better of it. Is just going to ride right on the bumper. Thinks he's going to try and set it up into this final corner. Get a good run out of the penultimate corner. Doesn't look like he's close enough. It'll be a royal send from back here. Trenton goes defensive onto the inside. Miles going to set up an over-under. Megan Overstreet is going to lead out of the final corner. They're going to go way to the right to break up the toe. Megan Overstreet is going to go 2 for 2 and win both races in Spec Racer Ford and Spec Miata tonight. Trenton Kramer is your second place finisher, with Miles Crabbe finishing third. In the run to the line, Nichols will beat out Lockshine for 4th and 5th position. Justice finishing in 6th, with Vaccaro close behind. And that was a barnstormer right down to the wire there, Greg.
Yes, it was. Yes, it absolutely was. And great run there. And Kramer, great job at defensive racing there. And certainly opened things up for Overstreet on the last lap as long as she could run clean. And she did. And she takes home 2 races in a row as Lockshine finishes 5th, Justice 6th, Vaccaro 7th. Stephen Blethen will make his way across the line. He will finish in 8th, I believe. Actually, you know what? I'm not sure that's the case. Let's take a look. Yes, he did complete the lap. There we go. And so Rich Green will finish in 9th, and Russ Lundberg will round out your top 10. All right, so let's take a look. It's starting to turn into deja vu all over again, Morgan. Tell you what, let's bring in Miles Crabbe. He finishes 2nd tonight. Probably no, he finished 3rd. Well, I'll tell you what, let's wait before I bring Miles in. Let's give Trenton Kramer a second and see if he appears out of nowhere. Because I don't think we've ever had Trenton in for an interview.
You know what? Here, let me go try and get a hold of him, Greg.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. While Morgan is running downstairs to track level to try and find Trenton Kramer, let's take a look. I think Josh has a replay queued up here that we could take a look at that last lap pass. And I know. Josh, was this with Lockshine and Nichols? Because I know they were battling it out on the last lap there. All right, so let's see if we can bring this up. And here we go with Nichols following Lockshine down. This is on the last lap as they come down into the Andretti hairpin. Lockshine moves to the inside on the number 5 machine. And I think they swap positions maybe 3 or 4 times on this last lap. Now let's keep it going. Although we got Trenton here, we'll get to them in a second. But let's take a look at this lap for a minute, Morgan, if you don't mind. Here.
And we've already know that Murphy Nichols does come out on top over Lewis Lockshine. So I'm gonna make a guess here, an educated guess, and I'm gonna say he tries it into the corkscrew. He's gonna try and line it up coming out of this kink. He gets way down to that apex, gets a really good run through the corner over Lewis Lockshine. He's gonna go poke to the outside, gets the side draft coming up the hill, gonna make that short straight line into the braking zone. They're both gonna go side by side through the corkscrew. That is very brave from the two of them. They both give each other room, side by side out, and they're gonna go again side by side through the rainy curves. Nichols is able to sweep across and take the spot before they even get to the final couple corners. And yeah, it was a very well done move, very respectful racing from the two of them.
Yeah, definitely. So there you go. That was the battle for 4th, just off the podium between Nichols and Lockshine. That's how it all played out. All right, so let's do this. let's go. We're going to bring in Trenton Kramer. He finishes second tonight in Spec Miata.
Let's have you tackle this one, Greg.
All right, sounds good. So Trenton, congratulations on your the podium finish. I'm sure a bit of a surprise as you and Megan Overstreet came out of turn 11 to see our two leaders at a standstill. Tell me a little bit about how you approached those last couple of laps, knowing that you were then fighting for the win, not fighting for fourth.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that Megan was catching up to me pretty quickly. There wasn't really much that I could do. I went over the kink a little too hard, and I popped a shock pretty badly to where it was kind of stood up on the front left a little higher, and it didn't want to turn. So I kind of just figured, you know what, let's just try and let her through at any point in time. That's clean. I made a mistake, and she capitalized on it. I was like, okay, I'll just follow her to the finish in hopes that I can regain it on the last lap. And coming through that final turn to find Murphy facing us and Miles pretty slow on the outside was quite a relief for how poor my pace was towards the end. But really, it's just about managing the gap to the guys behind at that point in time if you know you can't catch the guy in front, and Megan just so happened to be the one up in front this time.
All right, so congratulations on your second place finish. Anybody you'd like to thank?
I'd like to thank you guys for putting on a great show, and Frank Schwartz over at Paddock Motorsports got a great opportunity for these Jetta drivers. We'll see them out there next week.
That's right. And we were talking about the Sim to Track initiative, and of course Trenton putting in a lot of time working for Paddock, and I think all of the how do I say this? All the time in the sim, working with the Jettas, and of course driving the Mini Coopers in real life. It certainly has helped your racing efforts here in the past year. And we talked to Trenton, I think, last week and this week about your great finish at Virginia International Raceway at the National Championship runoff. So since I haven't had the chance to congratulate you on that, congratulations on your great finish there 2 weeks ago.
Thank you. It was great to see you guys out there.
All right, everybody, that's Trenton Kramer finishing second tonight in Spec Miata. And Morgan, that brings up one more person, and that is Megan Overstreet, your winner tonight in Spec Miata.
Well, hello there, Megan. It's 2 for 2 for you tonight, both mastering the Spec Racer Ford and the Spec Miata. How were you gonna try and do this race tonight? I mean, you kind of were hovering around third and fourth. Murphy and Miles got away at the beginning, but the God sent gift for you to come around the corner and have Murphy around and Miles slow.
Yeah, that was very lucky. I was not expecting that to happen. My main goal for this race was not to spin myself out like I have usually done in the MX-5. So I was happy I kept pointing forward for the first time. And yeah, coming around that last corner, whenever I saw both of them spinning out, I was like, wow, I can't believe this, because I was 3.5 seconds back at that point. So I was pretty sure I was battling for a third place, and that was highly unexpected.
And yeah, we did talk about on the broadcast how you are a Spec Racer Ford regular, and you've very recently started to branch out into these tin top cars. So give us a little bit of an insight on how you have to drive the two differently, where you jump in from the Spec Racer immediately into the Mazda MX-5. What do you have to change to win in both?
The biggest thing for me is just remembering that the MX-5 loves to just slide and drift for sometimes no reason or rhyme. It just does what it wants. So you can't really drive it like the Spec Racer Ford, where it's usually plowing like a dump truck understeer. So knowing that, you just try not to let let off the throttle too much, to let that rear end slide around on you too bad.
Well, there you go. That's very good insight from our winner in both races tonight. And I know I asked you this last time, but is there anybody you missed, or did you get everybody covered?
Grassroots Motorsports for sponsoring the MX-5s. We greatly appreciate it. As always, y'all, Stevie Ray, everybody that does these races, and everyone watching in my family.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Megan, and congratulations on your double win. My apologies, double win tonight.
Thank you. This is my first time that I've won the SRF and the MX-5, and I did it all in one night, so I am just blown away.
Well, there you go. Riding high tonight for sure is Megan Overstreet. Do you think we've got time
all
for
she has
another
to
interview,
do
Greg?
is follow it up, Morgan, next week with a win in the Jettas, right?
There you go. Get the 3 for 3.
Exactly. All right. Congratulations, Megan.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. There you go. Megan Overstreet taking the win tonight in Spec Miata. And so, Morgan, let's wrap things up here quickly, as I think we're running a few minutes over. Want to make sure that everybody can join us next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. We're going to be at the Circuit of the Americas. We're going to see the Spec Miatas once again, and then our 2 touring car classes, the Volkswagen Jettas and the GR86 Cup cars. They'll be having their 3rd race of the season next week. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be at Sebring for the touring cars and Spec Racer Ford. Those are the next 2 weeks. All right, so everybody make sure to join us. And if you haven't done so already, Morgan, what are we supposed to do? Jump on the smash, demolish the thumbs up button? What is it?
Something like that, Greg. You gotta drop kick the like button. You gotta throw bombs at the subscribe button, and just hit everything out of the park. Hit the bell out of the park here.
That's right, like Quasimodo, exactly. Hit that notification bell so you can find out all the times when Apex Racing TV goes live with virtual racing, seemingly around the clock. All right, so for Morgan Burkhardt, for Josh Wilkie, I'm Greg Ginsburg, and we'll see you next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, from a virtual Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Have a great week, everybody.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.